Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tony'sPicks.com. We got an NBA rundown and all games on the board on the 7-game card from our top unit producer over at Tony'sPicks.com for 2024 as well as 2023. It's Joseph Schultz, so let's bring him into the show. Joseph, how's it going tonight?
Hey, Tony.
Excellent. All right, let's get this card started. We start here with well, actually, we're not gonna work backwards. I got to set this game up here for you, so we'll go back to the starting point. Here we go, 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we've got the Bulls and the Clippers going head to head here in NBA TV. Clippers laying 7.5, total 221.
All right, so I don't have a ton for this game, but neither team will be on a back-to-back, but the Clippers will have a slight rest advantage with 2 days off. And there will be the third game in 4 days for the Bulls, even though it's not a back-to-back. Chicago has been good on the road this season, going 17-14-1 against the spread, and as an underdog going 19-17 against the spread. This is the fourth game of a 5-game West Coast trip for them, but it also the Clippers' first game home in 4 games, so that's typically a fade spot for me. Maybe you could consider this game kind of a look ahead for the Clippers with the Bucks coming up next on Sunday, but I don't really consider it a look ahead spot because it's a non-conference game. It's not a team they're fighting for playoff positioning with. The Bulls have been feisty lately. They're just a tough team. So and this is a tough game to be honest with you, but if you're gonna give me almost 8 points with the Bulls, I'm gonna take that.
All right, Joseph Schultz, get his screen plays over at Tony'sPicks.com. Bulls and Clippers here. He likes the Bulls here at plus to 7.5. All right, let's continue on our NBA rundown, joined by Joseph Schultz. Next game here on the board, we go to the Mavericks and the Pistons here. The Mavericks road favorite 7, total 235.5.
Okay. Detroit's been a hard team to figure out all year. They started the season. I thought they'd be a borderline play-in type of a team. They've got a good coach, good young talent. They've got a budding superstar in Cade Cunningham. But they went on that massive losing streak, and they never quite recovered. They did have a stretch of games where they were covering a lot of games, especially as double digits. They were like undervalued in the market because of that losing streak, and they weren't ever really that bad as the record had gotten so bad. They weren't that bad. But they've come back to earth a little bit here. They are, with 20 games left in the season, they are tied with Washington with the amount of wins. They both just have 10. So, but the thing with the Pistons is it doesn't look like they're tanking like all the other bottom feeders. They play hard when you watch their games. They're well coached. Monty Williams is I think they're going with culture over the draft lottery. So I think they're just going to let the ping pongs fall where they will, and they're just finishing off the year tough. So it's not a team that you can just chalk and up to. Now Dallas has been another tricky team though. They started the season without any depth. Derek Lively was a nice fit for them, but when he went down, they had no paint protection. They were counting on guys like Dwight Powell and Derek Jones Jr. Where nothing against those guys, but those can't be your main contributors on the team. But at the deadline, they made some nice pickups. PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. Gafford was a really nice one because of the paint protection that they needed. And those additions coincided with the roster getting healthy and Kyrie and Luka playing very well together. Probably the best that I've seen them play as a duo since they've been together. And because of that, from February 5th to February 22nd, they went on a 7-game winning streak. And I thought they were a real contender and that they had turned things around. But since then, it's almost like they're back to their old selves. They've gone 2-5 since then. They're too soft. They don't play enough defense. Luka is a huge defensive liability. I know he has an ankle issue, but he was a liability to begin with, anyways. And now everybody's just blowing by them. With all that said, I don't think the Pistons are tanking, so we can't just go with that. Williams has them playing hard, and with this big of a number to lay with the Mavericks, I'm just not willing to do it. I think Cade Cunningham should have a field day against the guards of the Mavericks, and I think that Detroit can bully them down low with their bigs.
All right, Joe Schultz get his premium plays over at TonySports.com. Mavericks and Pistons. He likes the Pistons here at +7. Hey guys, click the link in the description to find Joseph's handicapper page. He gets on to one of his long-term passes. All right, let's continue here on our NBA rundown on this 7-game card. Next up, it'll be Nets and the Hornets. We see the Nets road favorite 6.5, total 208.
Charlotte has 15 wins on the season. They probably won't finish below Detroit or Washington in the standings, but they would like to remain below Portland, who has 17, and possibly finish below San Antonio, who has 13 wins. The Nets started out 1-3 under Kevin Ollie, but they're 3-2 since then, and they play really hard. I really like him as a coach, and I thought that they would turn things around eventually. Brooklyn still has an outside chance at the postseason, just 4 games out of the final play-in spot. I don't really think they get there, but it gives them incentive to keep playing hard. Charlotte won the last meeting between these two teams back in November, 129-128 as 9-point dogs. So there is the revenge factor there. Brooklyn isn't going to roll over for anyone, being only 4 games out of the play-in, especially with an interim coach who's trying to win the job. Charlotte is also on the second game of a back-to-back, so they also have a rest advantage in this one. So you give me the team with the motivation to win with the rest advantage in a revenge spot. Give me the Nets all day.
All right, Joseph Schultz get his best bets over at TonySpace.com. Nets and Hornets. He says take the Nets here, laying the 6.5. All right, let's continue here on our NBA rundown here for the 7-game card on Saturday. Next up will be Spurs and the Warriors. We see the Golden State Warriors favored 8.5, total 230.5.
The Warriors dug themselves into a huge hole earlier in the season, but they've climbed out of 11th. It's going to sound crazy, climbed out of 11th. They're only in 10th, but the gap between 11th and 10th is massive. It's like 5 or 6 games. So, and the difference between postseason and not postseason. So they did climb themselves into at least a play-in spot. They've had some head-scratching results recently, losing by 52 to the Celtics and then winning by 35 against the Bucks, which is really weird because those are 2 of the best teams in the East. So it's hard to tell what version of the Warriors you're going to get from game to game. The Spurs will be without Victor Wembanyama for the second straight game. He's got an ankle issue. And there's no, regardless of how inconsistent the Warriors have been, without Victor Wembanyama, I couldn't lay any money on the Spurs. I have to lay the points with the Warriors.
All right, Joseph Schultz get his premium plays over at Tony'sPicks.com. Spurs and the Warriors. He says to go ahead and take the Warriors here at minus the 8.5 points. All right, let's continue here on our NBA rundown here for action on Saturday. Next up, we go to the ABC game here. Celtics and Suns. Boston road favorites 6.5, total 227.5.
Boston's going to stop taking my money, I swear to you. Okay, so the Suns are 6th in the West right now, which could mean a possible first-round matchup with Denver, which I don't think anybody wants right now. And honestly could mean the difference between a quick exit in the first round for them. But they're just 1 game out of 5th, also, which would likely mean a first-round matchup with teams like maybe the Pelicans or the Clippers, which would at least give them a shot at reaching the second round. They're also just a half game ahead of Sacramento, who is in a play-in spot. So there's really, depending on a couple wins or losses, there's a huge swing in the standings that could take place here. So the motivation is going to be there for the Suns. It's just which Suns are going to show up. Now, they have been playing really good defense lately. I'll give them that. And they've got a top three, players that are as talented as anyone in the league. Now, Boston will be looking to bounce back from a terrible 22-point fourth quarter collapse against the Cavs, which they followed up with a loss against the defending champions, which I thought should have been a statement game for the Celtics, but instead was more like a statement game for the Nuggets. Phoenix beat the Celtics in their last matchup on February 3rd as 10-point underdogs. So the Celtics should have revenge motivation here. I hesitate to say that just because they should have had huge bounce back motivation last game, but they were facing an opponent of the same standard as them. So I guess it's any team on any day in the NBA. But I'm going to take Boston in a bounce back spot with the revenge motivation to win and to cover here. And just for the sake of saying this, if they don't look good in this game, not necessarily if they cover, but if they don't look good in this game, I'm going to have to really file that away in the memory bank for the next time they face an adverse situation.
All right, Joseph Schultz, top unit producer at TonySpace.com for 2024 as well as 2023. He says in this one, Celtics and Suns, take the Celtics here at minus the 5.5. Guys, click that link in the description to get to Joseph's handicapper page and take a look at all his offerings for this big Saturday card. Let's continue here on our NBA rundown as we continue here with the Jazz and Nuggets. Nuggets big favorites, 11.5, total 233.
So the Jazz actually won the last meeting between these two teams back in January, 124-111 as 6.5-point underdogs. But the Jazz gave up on this season at the trade deadline, letting go of Kelly Olynyk and Fontano. They just don't have the depth to compete anymore. Now, they are just 5.5 behind 10th place in the West, but they have no real chance of catching up. So they're just a fading team, and they're going to be running up against a team preparing to defend their title, a team that's coming into form and that looks, quite frankly, like they could actually be the best team in the NBA after all. After all this time of thinking it was probably the Celtics. Now, Denver has the revenge factor because of what I said, that they lost the last meeting against them. But I don't even think that matters to them. They're coming after anyone that you put in front of them right now. Denver is 7-1 straight up in their last 8, and they played some really good teams in that stretch too, like the Warriors, the Kings, Miami, and most impressively Boston. Neither team will have a rest advantage in this one, and I mean, this doesn't really matter, but usually Denver has a slightly bit more of a home court advantage because of the altitude, but Utah plays actually at a higher altitude than Denver, so that's not really going to play a part in this game. But like I said, this is a fading team running into what seems to be a well-oiled machine, clicking at the right time, and I could only lay the points with the Nuggets.
All right, Joseph Schultz, find his pre and plays over at TonySpace.com. Jazz and Nuggets. He says go ahead and take the Nuggets at minus the 11.5 points. All right, let's continue here on our NBA rundown here for Saturday. Next up here, we close up this card here with the Raptors at the Trailblazers. Toronto road favorites here at 1.5 points, total 223.5.
The bookmakers are so smart, making this line so short. I think the public or the casual bettor might just look at this and just think, the Raptors are the better team, and they are the better team, at least the roster that these teams are putting out there. Now, quickly, and the guys. I know they lost Barnes, but quick. Oh my God, my guy from the Knicks, quickly and
Emmanuel Quickly, R.J. Barrett.
Barrett. Oh my God, it was slipping my mind. So quickly and Barrett, they're always feisty. They're always going to give 100%. And the Raptors are running them out there. I'll give them credit for that. I don't know if they're tanking. I couldn't for sure say that, but the Trailblazers sure are, and they're probably going to sit a bunch of guys again like they have been. Now, the Raptors aren't going to make the postseason, so the front office probably isn't really wanting to win too many more of these last handful of games. So with that said, I would probably consider them a tanking team, although the players are going to play hard. So just the rule of thumb, when two tanking teams are playing each other, especially later in the season, if you're going to bet the game, you want to put your money on the team that has less wins, because the team with more wins has more of an incentive to lose the game. And for that reason, I would hesitantly put my money on the Trailblazers here.
There you go. All right. Those let's get his stream plays over at TonySpeaks.com. Raptors and Trailblazers. He says here the Trailblazers here at plus the 1.5 points. All right. We got through this NBA card, the 7-game card. Joseph, head into a monster weekend here of action all across the sports. Of course, looking here at Joseph. He is the top unit producer over at TonySpeaks.com for 2024. 2,359 units of profit. Also coming off nearly 3,000 units of profit in 2023, and over the last 14 months, surpassing well over nearly 65 units of profit. It's been on absolute fire. You're not going to find a capper in any of these multi-capper sites that document selections even getting close to these numbers. He's been on absolute tear. What do you have going over at TonySpeaks.com?
Well, for today, as always, going to have the $15 best bet. That's going to be out of the NBA. But I'm also going to have a 5-pack for today. It's going to include some college basketball as well as the NBA. And as always, we got the longer-term packages for people looking to be profitable long-term and to get a bit of a value on the picks. We got the 3-day, the weekly, the monthly, or the year.
That's right, guys. Got to work Joseph over at TonySpeaks.com. And of course, click the link in the description. You'll find his handicapper page there, and go ahead and get signed up. I want to remind you guys about our promo code TonyT at checkout. Will save you that 20% off. You can access Joseph's page by clicking the link in the description. That'll take you right to his handicapper page, and that's you'll see all his selections are available for sale there, as well as his long-term passes. All right, Joseph, always great having you on the show. Continue that great success, and we'll catch up with you again tomorrow.
All right, Tony. Have a good one.
You as well. All right. For Joseph, I'm Tony T. Have yourself a winning Saturday. We'll catch up with you again tomorrow.